What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our team builder for our play-in match. Now, there's a whole story behind this and a reason why we're playing the play-ins. I talked about it a little bit at the end of our Week 10 battle, but let me just touch on this before I go in depth about the team and whatnot. So we were playing Eshaan and his LA Charizards. This is a tie. So Eshaan and I didn't play during the regular season. He didn't take over for anyone. We both have been playing since the start of the season. Um, we both played the exact same opponents this season, and we finished with the exact same record. So there's no head-to-head tiebreaker, there's no differential tiebreaker, there's no strength of schedule tiebreaker. The tiebreaker was originally going to be alphabetical, and we actually would have come first because he's actually the Los Angeles Charizards rather than the LA Charizards there, and I'm the Ladner Lanturn, so I came first alphabetically. But it's a lot more fair to do it this way. We're going to have a play-in match, and the winner of this gets 8th seed. I believe plays DS, if I'm not mistaken. It's either DS or Sty, but I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, off the top of my head. I only know what it's like going into this match. But yeah, there's a whole extra week for this. Main League is like way behind, so they're doing all their matches in Main League this week, and then we got an extra week just to do this game. I'm a little bit sick, so apologies if my voice sounds weird or anything like that. But okay, so let's talk about Eshaan's team. He has the potential to bring Mega Gallade, Clefable, Suicune, Z Nidoking, which is like awful, Darmanitan, Jirachi, Dhelmise, Z Noivern, Z Pangoro, Ditto, and Rotom. Priority users in the Gallade with Shadow Sneak, Nidoking with Sucker Punch, and Pangoro with Bullet Punch. Hazard setting in the Clefable with Rocks, Nidoking with Rocks and T-Spikes, and the Jirachi with Rocks. Removal options are the Dhelmise with Rapid Spin, Noivern with Defog, and Rotom with Defog, and 4x weaknesses is the Noivern to Ice and Pangoro to Fairy. I believe I have those covered at some point here. Um, I'm expecting anything. Honestly, anything could come against me. I think Suicune makes a lot of sense. It's a good Swampert check. I think Dhelmise makes a lot of sense. It's a good Swampert check. I feel like Darmanitan... I'm really scared of Darmanitan, but I feel like it won't come because I have the Rain. That's one of the reasons I don't think it's coming. I think Clefable is definitely threatened by Scizor and Amoonguss, but it also threatens like Conkeldurr and Hydreigon, so I'm not entirely sure about that. Mega Gallade is probably coming. It outspeeds most of my team naturally, everything bar Torn. Noivern is really solid in rain because it gets accurate Hurricanes, so I wouldn't be surprised if that comes. Pangoro, I wouldn't be surprised if that comes. It's a solid way to check the Necrozma, which doesn't really get a super effective way to hit it. Nidoking is a gigantic threat against me. It's such a big threat. I have absolutely nothing to wall it on my entire team unless I brought like Spadef Necrozma, which just didn't fit. Trust me, I tried. It doesn't fit. And the Nidoking can just run Shadow Ball if it really wants to hit me super effectively there. Stab is actually better because of Prism Armor, but there you go. Ditto could copy my Swampert and Rain, which is something I'm anticipating to happen. And then Rotom does get Levitate, so it's a relatively effective Mega Swampert check as well. We obviously saw Rotom Fan come as a Torn T check. Rotom regular form is less of a Torn T check than Rotom Fan because it's not as a user, first of all, and it's weak to knockoff. So if I really wanted to go ham with Torn T, then that's the play there. But yeah, basically anything could have come. I asked my pal Bronson to build me a team. He built me one. I didn't like it as much as the one that I ended up building. He built a team for me. I built a team. I looked at them and said, which one has the better matchup and which one am I more comfortable with? Obviously, the one that I built, I was more comfortable with, but his team by all means was not bad at all. I just felt like it didn't cover the same threats that I identified against me, and that my team was going to be a lot more fun to use, and more effective, I think, overall. So, starting off here, this is my Amoonguss here. Pyapa Berry Amoonguss. I'm really hoping I don't get flinched by that fucking Jirachi, but Gallade, and it's essentially a Punisher for Gallade and Jirachi, but it can also switch into Suicune. It's semi-effective against a Nidoking. It's a good Clefable check as well, so I think Amoonguss can do a lot in this game, but Pyapa Berry is mainly there just to lure the Gallade and the Jirachi. It's a 50% chance, I believe, for me to kill the Gallade at +2 with Foul Play. And I can punish the Jirachi with Spore if he's not going to flinch me. Dhelmise is definitely a threat though, so gotta worry about that. Clear Smog is there for Suicune and Clefable, if it's Calm Mind Clefable or whatever, and then Grass Knot. This is an Evan suggestion. I want a Giga Drain, but Grass Knot has more PP, so it's going to do better against Suicune in a 1v1, and I'll be able to have more of them with pressure and whatnot. It's not going to be as effective against other things, excuse me, because it's Grass Knot and it's weight based, but it'll still be fine against Suicune. This is just the recommended set, default set. It ended up working out really well. Even without the Pyapa Berry, I actually tank a neutral Zen Headbutt from the Mega Gallade, but with the Pyapa Berry, I can tank a +2 Zen Headbutt from Mega Gallade. So that's the idea behind that. Just to pivot into a lot of stuff there. I can't really pivot into Darmanitan with that, and that's the idea behind Pelipper. So Pelipper pivots into Darmanitan if I need to, can pivot into Pangoro. I don't really care if my item gets knocked off. In all honesty, it's not the end of the world. This is probably my pivot into the Dhelmise, despite it not really being able to hit it. Foul Play is going to do a lot to Dhelmise, though. Hurricane Scald, U-Turn Roost, very basic Pelipper set here, just fully physically defensive. I can switch this into Earth Powers from Nidoking, and if he's Scarf, then I'll be in a really good spot. If he's not, then I have to double into something else on the Thunderbolt, probably the Amoonguss. Or the Mega Swampert if I want to get initiative there. Yeah, Hurricane, mainly there for the Gallade. I can also kill Gallade with this. It's a switch in. It's not as reliable as Amoonguss early game, but, early game it's better than Amoonguss. But if he has Thunder Punch, I need to scout the coverage that the Gallade has, essentially. U-turn from Momentum, because I want to get my Mega Swampert in. I'm going to have 8 turns of rain, which is great. Hurricane's doing a lot of damage, so that's a huge pog. And getting into my Torn is actually going to be the key this game, because I think Torn is going to be the way that I win, and so that's the reason that I've got this Pelipper set. Swampert is next. I'm outspeeding Scarf Jirachi in Rain, which I would imagine is his Scarfer, and so I'll be able to Earthquake it in the face. I've got Waterfall, Power Up Punch, Ice Punch, and Earthquake. Power Up Punch I'm not really going to use unless I absolutely need it to break through like Clefable in Rain or whatever, like Waterfall breaking Clefable in Rain or Earthquake breaking it outside of Rain or something, and I can get to +1 on a switch, then I'll do that. But if the Ditto shows up, I'm never clicking Power Up Punch, that's for sure. Pelipper can wall this Swampert. So if Ditto copies this Swampert, I can wall it with Pelipper. Most of the time. Most of the time. Gotta be careful on his end, because if he copies me before I Mega Evolve, then he's gonna get regular Swampert and I'll get Mega, because he'll switch before my Mega goes off, and then I have just an inherent advantage because I'm gonna outspeed him that turn actually. So we'll see about that, but I'm not entirely sure how that one's gonna go. Like if he makes a double or whatever, then he's gonna have to give something up, I think. And I'm almost certain that either Dhelmise or Suicune is gonna be his way to punish this. Dhelmise can tank Ice Punches relatively okay, and Suicune can tank Earthquakes relatively okay. That's why I have Power Punch for the Suicune mainly, as well as the Dhelmise, just be able to give me something to kill them. But if the Dhelmise is the one switching, and then Power Punch is obviously going to do nothing because it's immune. Just max attack, a little bit of bulk on there. Heliolisk is my Suicune check. It's like a dedicated Suicune check, essentially. It does a lot. Helios is like probably the best Suicune check in the entire game, because it can't touch me unless it's got Ice Beam. Like if he's a Mono Scald set, he just can't do anything to me, and I can always glare it. Plan is to like spread glare around against his faster mons like Jirachi. I can glare the Nidoking, I can glare the Darmanitan, whatever wants to switch into Heliolisk, right? I think it's a little bit dangerous for him to want to switch in like Nidoking on Heliolisk on a rain team, because Surf is really obvious. But maybe he switches in Clefable, something like that, and I can paralyze it. That'd be great. Magic Guard's not going to stop the paralysis, so that's why Glare is really good here. Dark Pulse is there for the Dhelmise and also the Jirachi. It'll hit both super effectively, which is really solid. Thunderbolt is just really good stab against most of this team, and Hyper Voice is really spammable. Like outside of Dhelmise, this team actually has Dhelmise and Rotom, which is also what Dark Pulse is there for, because Rotom's immune to both stabs. Outside of Dhelmise and Rotom and Jirachi, which all get hit super effectively by Dark Pulse. There's no Hyper Voice resist here, so realistically I don't need Thunderbolt. Hyper Voice also works against sub Suicune, which is super solid for me, but I don't need the Thunderbolt. It's just there to be able to break Suicune's subs if I need to. And then Hyper Voice is going to be better against everything else unless I'm going for Paralysis chance against like Noivern or Darmanitan. I'm running out of speed on here for Jirachi if it's not Scarfed, and then max special attack, a little bit of bulk, just a lefty set. I'm going to get a ton of recovery. Excuse me. I'm getting a ton of recovery on a rain turn. I actually get 18% back on a turn where I'm sitting in rain with dry skin plus lefties. I didn't feel like I needed another item. I could have definitely brought like Expert Belt or like Black Glasses to up the Dark Pulse damage against Dhelmise or Rotom. I may actually end up changing that because I'm not sure how much I'm going to need the leftovers, and Black Glasses might be more helpful against breaking the Dhelmise. Let me actually just run a calc on the other monitor here, and then I'll come back to this in a second while I talk about Tornado. So Specs Torn here, it just absolutely obliterates this team. I'm not going to lie. Specs Torn just like goes... it goes pretty ham. Dhelmise, he's probably going to be like this sort of set, right? So Dark Pulse. Let's look at his team again on my side. Oh, Choice Specs. Yeah, not Choice Specs. Black Glasses. That does a lot of damage. If I'm not Black Glasses, is it still going to two-shot though? Yeah, it looks like it'll still two-shot. But if he's like max HP, then I'm not. And if he's Assault Vest, then the damage will matter a lot if I was Black Glasses instead of Black Belt. It's a guaranteed 3-shot, but it's a lot more damage. So I'm actually going to change the Heliolisk to Expert Belt. It's the same damage as Black Glasses, and it'll up my T-Ball damage against the Suicune as well. So let's move with that. Move with that play. Okay, so Torn, back to Torn here. Specs Hurricane. Resists are the Rotom and the Jirachi. Hurricane dents this team really hard. I get 100% accurate Hurricanes. Choice Specs Hurricane there's not really a switch in. And I don't know if Jirachi's a safe switch in until he finds out that I'm Specs. So I probably get one most of the time. Heat Wave is there for the Jirachi, and Sludge Wave is there if I need a better way to break through Clefable. Hurricane's giving me my play against almost everything. Heat Wave against Jirachi is not going to do anything in rain. Even though I'm Specs, it's really not going to do anything in rain unless he's Scarfed, and then I'd be okay with that. If he's like a Wish Calm Mindset, then I'm probably stuck in a bad spot. But that's the idea behind Torn, is that it goes ham. It really does a lot of damage to this team. I'm outspeeding the Mega Gallade. I don't have to outspeed Noivern. Noivern's the fastest thing in the game against me. I can't even outspeed it with Mega Swampert and Rain. So I believe. No, maybe I could have Scarf Noivern or something like that, but I'm not really scared of Scarf Noivern. I probably should be more scared of Scarf Noivern. In theory, Heliolisk is the switch into it, but I'm no longer leftovers, so. Last but not least is Gardevoir. I'm running a Scarf Gardevoir with Trace. I'm hoping to trace Sheer Force off the Nidoking and then just like bash this team in with Moonblast and Psychic. And Shadow Ball, they're all Sheer Force a bull. If I could trace Serene Grace on Jirachi, then I'll fire off big Shadow Balls. Fairy Stab is like really good against this team besides Jirachi and Nidoking. And Darmanitan, but Darmanitan's pretty weak, frail defensively. I've got Healing Wish on there just to like beef up my Torn late game, or beef up my Mega Swampert late game. If this needs to be the sweeper, then so be it, but I will outspeed Mega Gallade. I'm not sure if he's going to have Shadow Sneak for me or not. I'm not sure if he's got room for Shadow Sneak on the Mega Gallade for me. He's kind of running into Move Slot Syndrome with that thing, in my opinion. I think he probably wants Psychic Stab to actually be able to hit Amoonguss. He probably wants some form of move to hit Necrozma, which would otherwise just wall it. And he wants a fighting move to hit the Hydreigon. Unless he just goes with X-Scissor for Hydreigon and Necrozma, which would also make a lot of sense. Then he could just roll with like Psychic move, X-Scissor, and he's not walled by anything. In particular on my team with those two moves, I'm not sure it necessarily gives him the freedom to run whatever he wants in the last two moves necessarily. He's probably going to have Protect on Clefable. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's Unaware for like Necrozma. which funnily enough wouldn't change like stored powers damage, which is kind of why I think the Pangoro comes is as a backup check in the Necrozma. I'm not bringing it. I was actually considering bringing it, but I'm not going to bring it. Gardevoir outspeeding Noivern, by the way. Regular Noivern, just non-Scarf Noivern. There's no relevant Scarfers that I can outspeed with this, but I felt like Scarf Gardevoir was the play here. It lets me run Modest, which is really solid. It's going to be a lot of damage output. In terms of when I'm not bringing Scissor, excuse me, Scissor's not bad here. It's really not that bad. It has a relatively tough time beating Suicune, especially Suicune that's going to run speed. I think it's going to have a tough time against, but it can beat almost everything else. Problem on my end was Ditto copying it. I couldn't really beat it myself, so I just didn't bring it. Hydreigon was on Bronson's build, and he brought... Actually, let me pull up Bronson's build on the other monitor for myself here, because I forgot. I forgot what Bronson built for me. I remember there was a Hydra on it, a Z-Belch Hydra. Where is it? Where did he put it? There it is. Okay, so... Yeah, Scissor wasn't on this build either, but he brought a Z-Belch Hydra with Dark Pulse, Tailwind, Draco, and Belch. Scarf Gardevoir, just like I'm bringing. Actually, the same amount of speed and whatnot. So he was creeping Noivern as well. He brought an Iapapa, very physically defensive Necrozma, which I don't necessarily... I don't know how well that would have worked. I'm not sure what it was trying to do, but he wasn't bringing Rain either. He was bringing Iapapa, very Torn as well with Taunt, which is something that I definitely considered was a Taunt set to shut down Suicune, Clef, and the Jirachi. I think that I'm just going to try and power through it. And it may be a complete mistake not using his build in the first place. There was a Conk with Flame Orb Guts. I didn't actually find that the Conk was going to be that effective this game. I don't really see Conk doing that much for me. It kind of just like dies to a bunch of stuff if it's Flame Orb. So felt like it needed to be Assault Vest to take on like the Nidoking. And even then, it doesn't really tank hits all that well that it would need to be able to get attacks off. So I just wasn't a big fan of Conk this game. He brought Scarf Heliolisk. I'm going with a different approach. I'm not a huge fan of like mono Volt Switch as your only electric attack. I like momentum. Momentum, like U-turn's my favorite move in the game, but I don't like mono Volt Switch. So I could have just edited Bronson's team that he gave me, but I decided to not do that, and I decided to go with my own route. So, oh, I just closed my prep doc. Wow, this is really sloppy today. I don't remember why I'm not bringing Conk. I know Bronson had it on his team, obviously, so I mentioned the Hydra and why I wasn't bringing that, didn't I? It was mainly Clefable. I didn't want to bring the Z-Belch set because then it means that I'm slower than my Gallade, and I didn't want to be slower than the Noivern either. It's a nice way to break Jirachi, even though I'm slower than Jirachi, because Jirachi is going to be one of the big things that this team has an issue with. So obviously it's nice to be able to break Jirachi, and that's probably the only reason that I would actually consider bringing Hydra to this game is that it does that. Conk, again, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't think it matches up very well when Jirachi and Noivern seem to be the two biggest threats. And it needs to be AV to handle the Nidoking. If it was the Flame Orb set, I wouldn't be able to handle that. Mach Punch, he had Mach Punch on the set. I actually don't like Mach Punch at all this game. I think Mach Punch is like really terrible against this team. Most of the team is like resistant to fighting in the first place, so I don't really like the idea of a Mach Punch Conk here. Necro, again, I had it on the team at one point, Necrozma. I scrapped it for Gardevoir because I felt like I needed a Scarfer of some kind, and Gardevoir offered me a better Scarf option than Necrozma would have. I could have brought Scarf Hydra, but I think that Gardevoir taking advantage of Sheer Force is just too juicy to pass up. Monferno was never coming into this game. Rain has too good of a matchup, so Monferno was not on either of the builds. I think it was Monferno and Scissor were the only two not on either of the builds. I think he's got to prep for Scissor, though, because it's my best threat to the Clefable. So we'll sort of see about that. But yeah, that's the team. Hopefully I went a little bit more in depth than I normally would, because this is a very important match. Essentially, if we win, we're into playoffs, and if we lose, we're out of playoffs. So it's really gonna come down to that. You know, props to Eshaan for all his hard work this season. I'm not gonna have, I'm not gonna get angry over not making playoffs or anything like that. I'm actually pretty proud of myself. Getting this far and having to play a tiebreaker game is really whatever. But I persevered the season. I didn't think that I was going to match up very well against the competition, and I definitely proved myself wrong over the many leagues actually that I joined since joining UPA. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys for the play-in match.